Hi, Ahmed. Ahmed, can you hear me okay?
Hello. Hello. Yes. Yes, I can hear you.
That's great. Okay, how are you?
I'm good. How about you?
Fine. Yeah, fine. It's you know, early in England. What time is it where you are? What's the time where you are? It's a really bad connection, Ahmed. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, Tony, I can hear you very well.
Hi, Fatima. I can see you and I can hear you really clearly. I'm afraid Ahmed, it's a very bad connection for me. I don't know, Fatima, can you see Ahmed?
No, not really. I think it seems like his camera is off. And also I can't hear him. Ahmed, can you hear me?
You can hear me?
Okay,
Hello?
like
Yes, I can.
yes, Ahmed, but it's your voice is okay. Why?
Yes. Now, how about now? Can you see me? Can you hear me?
We can. It's not very clear, but it's better. It's definitely better, Ahmed, but it's not a great connection. We'll keep trying and
How about now? I'm changing the locations.
okay, yeah, it's getting better. So let's I don't know, Fatima, can you hear him?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so yeah, you're definitely it's definitely coming through clearer now.
Okay,
Aisha,
great.
can you hear us?
Me, I can hear. Hi, everyone.
Good
Sorry
morning.
for being late.
That's okay. I'm glad you're with us now. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for giving up your time. We've got 2 hours. Let's see how the connection works out, and let's see what we can get done. Really, we're just going to go through some of the data collection, but we're going to start by a bit of a fact finding. So I'd like to hear from you, kind of the teaching that you've been doing this week. I believe a new course started on the 26th. Is that correct? Yeah. So what would be great would be if I could hear from you just a quick idea of what you did this week. I guess, have you had two evening classes with your learners?
Yes, exactly. We have 2 classes a week, each 2 hours, 2 hours each.
2 hours each, great. So what would be really helpful for me would be to get a sense of what each of you did in that 2 hours, just so that I can get a feel for your lesson, for the material, and how it all works. So just 2 or 3 minutes each. If we start with Fatima, because your connection is definitely the clearest, could you just tell us what you did this week?
That week we had our first 2 sessions actually. So the first one, it started on Thursday, And when we started, I had a very bad connection, so we wasted a good amount of time, me trying to find a spot just to sit in and where they can hear me. And then we started introducing ourselves and we played a game because this is the first time we meet. We watched a video and then I had a question written about that video. So we went back and answered this question in a separate group.
Brilliant. Okay, how many learners did you have in the group?
I had six.
Okay. And can you tell me a little bit about the video? What is the video of?
So the video is on YouTube. Just let me check if the title of it. Sorry. Where is it? So we tried to watch the video on Zoom, but the voice wasn't clear, like because it was very. So I sent the video on WhatsApp, and they watched it alone, and then came back.
And what's the video about?
Okay, so, oh yeah, so the topic was friends. So the video is, do you really need to have friends on YouTube?
Great. Do you really need to have friends? So I could have a look at that later. And then what was the question that you asked them about the video?
So in the video, they talked about specific studies. So I asked them like about this like study, like why people do live longer if they had friends. And then they start, because that and that, and who did this study, in what year was it, and stuff like this. Just
okay.
Yeah.
And how did they respond? Did they have a conversation about these issues?
Yeah. So before we go to the video, we actually had discussion. I had a list of questions about friendship in general. So they were discussing me like in pairs, each two. I think each two had like 10 questions. So they were like already in the mood to talk about friendship, if you'd like. So it was very interesting. I mean, it was a first class, so they were engaged and all, but like I don't think they participate like to the fullest, maybe because it was like our very first class.
Okay, that's perfect. That's great. And when's your next class with those 6 students?
It was Friday, and I had a way better connection because I fixed it. We had 8. What else? Yes, we had 8 students, and I can't take notes. Let me check. Oh, see, so we always start with like a little game to just warm up. So we started with like a game. I believe we did Two Truth and a Lie. And then this like, because the number was it took like 40 minutes of our time, but it was fun and good practice because they were making questions and other was answering and asking for follow-up questions, which was like, I believe, a good use of time. And then we started in our topic, which was it? Oh yeah, like writing a story. We want to practice writing. No, that was yesterday. Sorry. Oh yes, I remember now. Okay. We had to. Oh, hi Aisha. Can you hear me, Tony?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. So we did something like small presentations because we want to measure like our like progress throughout the course. So I told them we're gonna do a presentation in the now and then another thing similar in the middle and something in the end. So it was, I gave them 15 minutes they have to choose a random number, and I have a list of questions, like how do you make friends, how do you learn English, what is it, like stuff like this. It's all start with how, and
Okay.
then they have 15 minutes to prepare a presentation about it, and then come and talk to the whole class.
That's fantastic. So I'm going to use some of what you just told me as examples later when we get to talk about the data entry and the website. Okay, Ahmed, could you just spend 2 or 3 minutes telling us about your lessons, your classes this week?
Yes, thank you, Fatima and Tani, Aisha also for this meeting. And actually, like I started like a little bit earlier than Aisha and Fatima. So I had like 4 classes.
I can't hear Ahmed.
Oh, sorry. At all, Aisha, can you hear me now? Guys,
I can hear you.
Yeah, better.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you.
okay. So I changed my location, like outside on balcony. So it is the best connection I think we have in house. So anyhow, in the first class, like we have started with the icebreak introduction. Also, we played the games called like guessing game. First, like I brought up some question about myself. Some of them true, some of them false. Like for example, I was born in Egypt. Like I'm the fastest runner in my country or in my region there. So like the several question about myself, they were guessing. And like I remember there is a question was like I said I used to eat like rabbit a lot. So they were laughing. They say first time we hear somebody like sorry, not rabbit, so fox. And I tried before this. It's really like so all of them they agree. They say no, we are human. Like we are not eating the fox, but I did eat so. And it was really fantastic class for the ice breaking introduction. Also, they did the same, and they wrote in the chat like questions. I also including me. I was guessing with them. And the first class was like good attendance, almost like 9, yeah, 9 or 10. And some of them they were having like internet connection, but most of them they luckily they were able to finish the class. And yeah, so then also we started like some question about their countries because like most of them the learner were like I'm from Sudan, two of us from Sudan, other from Syria, Jordanian, and so we were like talking the differences, some kind of difference about our countries because it is also included with the high breakings because I believe that all of us we are very familiar about our country, so that is allow us to speak out what we have like the side of landicap or the culture, and that is the first class. But actually I faced like some challenge in the second class. So some of them they were like complaining. He said, Ahmad, you speak all in English and we are not getting you all of what you have said. So I said, guys, sorry, but in the introduction, the beginning, the ice breaking game, like they were talking about their countries, they presented good, and I thought like according to their level A2, they are good. So, but actually some of them they are so good. But elderly say they were quiet in the second class because we started like kind of the way that the A2 student want to learn.
Okay.
And
then did you, sorry to interrupt, Ahmed, did you use any video or any WhatsApp like Fatima?
yeah, I do. I send the video before the class, like 6 hours or 7 hours, and it was like a motivational video. And I asked them like from the beginning of the class, did you able to like watch the video? Some of them they say yes. Like I just heard it, two of them like about the video, and they say like it's interesting. And
So what
actually
was
it
the video
was
about?
motivational speech, motivational speech. Yeah.
Right. So so the person was giving a motivational speech.
Yeah. Also, actually, there were two videos. The second one is like about the self introduction, because the first class we did the self introduction with the ice breaking game. So I just sent the video that like giving the self introduction in perfect way. So they watched, like I said. So it's not like we did. Like it's really short. You can make it short and very like a professional way.
Okay.
Your like self introduction in English.
So that's two videos they were.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
great. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. That's great. Thank you, Ahmed. Okay, and Aisha, could you just tell us a little bit about your classes?
Yes, sure. I would like to share what I have done because uh, I've I've written what I have done. Just a second, if you can see. I don't know. I can share. I don't think I can share, so I can just I opened my camera.
Okay,
Can you see, guys?
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So this is what I have done. I've already done only 2 classes, Saturday and Tuesday, and I'm going to have a class on tomorrow. So I just done this. This was the plan for the first class. We've done introduction and we looked at the syllabus. We set goals. The students shared what their expectations are from the course and what their real goals are. So I've written some goals here. Most of them, they're focused on conversation, improving your speaking. And we did a quick game in pairs. I told them to tell each other two truth or a lie, just like Ahmed did, I think. It's just helped us to learn, like to know each other more. And then we did conversation about hobbies, as you can see. And then there's another one. No, the radio game was the second. I think the first day we've done only this because we took time talking about ourselves. The students were interested in knowing each other and introducing themselves. So I think this is very much what we have done for the first class, because we've been like, I've written these questions. I have only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions, but each question I've taken for each student it took 5 or 10 minutes. Oh no, 5 minutes maybe. So the next day we done. There's an idea about one student from my old students that we have to start in each class a radio game. So the radio game is just speaking for 1-2 minutes about anything they want. So I told them we started from last Tuesday to start. They started speaking for 2 minutes. I was impressive because their level is really low, but they tried their best to talk about anything and everything they wanted. They prepared actually, because I want them to prepare for the first sessions, and then maybe after 10 sessions, I'll give them a topic, and then they have to speak about it. but not, for now they have to prepare it. So we've done the game, and then we have done this activity, find someone who, and then find someone who likes to read, find someone, those things, if you can see. So I put them in pairs as well. So they have to ask each other. Some of them were 3, because I don't have a lot. Well, I have 10 students, but I have only I've had only 7 joined 2 classes we've done till now. So yeah.
Okay.
Just
that's perfect. That's okay for now. I'll come back to. I'll ask you maybe to say a little bit more later. But what I'd like to do now is just connect some of the things that you just told me about to how you can use those items for your data entry for the next phase of the research. So some of the, you didn't have a lot of training before you started to work with the website. So I understand that. So what we're going to try and do for the next phase is create opportunities for you to understand a little bit more about what kinds of things we want you to write about when you put things on the website. How are you going to respond to those questions? So I totally understand that you didn't have a lot of guidance. So the idea now is to try and give you a bit more guidance. So if anything isn't clear, do let me know. The idea isn't that it's a really strict, a really formal thing. Really, it's to try to find questions for you to answer that allow you to say something about what you're teaching. So when I'm not looking for a very specific thing when you write about your lessons. I just want to know all the things that you just told me, and find a way of prompting that so that when you go onto the website, you know how to describe those things on the website. So do stop me if you've got any questions, and do let me know if anything isn't clear, which I'm sure some of it won't be very clear, because I know what I want, but I've got to try and explain that in a way
some of what?
Can you hear me, Aisha?
Yeah, now we say some of what, Tony?
So some of your ideas from the lesson that you will then put up and describe on the internet, on our website. Do you understand what I mean by the internet? Our data entry website?
Yeah. Good. Are you talking about this last entry that we done?
Well, so looking to the next phase.
Done, you mean?
Yeah, so good question, but building on that first phase of data collection and developing your understanding of what we need for the next phase. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but also are you talking that I couldn't understand what the last entry? Do you mean the last entry? Are you talking about me specifically, or are you talking in general? I didn't understand well.
I'm talking up to all 3 of you now, not not you specifically, Aisha.
Okay,
all 3.
Okay. Well, I understand. I personally didn't fit like the last entry with full information, because this is why I started to do this idea. I'm going to write every single thing I'm doing with the students, so I can remember. I can put something important into the entry. So maybe yes, I didn't write a lot of information in the entry last time.
Yeah, exactly. So I think what we need to do for the next phase is just make sure that you're clear that it's okay to write. It's okay to write those details. I don't know what you're doing in your lessons. I've not visited and I've not been part of the lessons. So at this stage, anything that you tell us about what you're doing is going to be useful. Obviously, there needs to be a focus. There are some specific things that we are looking for, and I'm going to tell you what those things are now. But in terms of the detail, I would encourage you to provide as much detail as you have time for, so that we get like a nice full picture of the activity, or of the language that you were practicing, or of the technology. So I'll say a bit more about the specifics so that you know it's really clear. What I'll do is I'll share my screen so that you can see the question. Can you see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions, or is it too small?
This is a bit small for me, actually.
Yeah, it's a bit small, isn't it? It's a Word document, so I'm not sure how to increase the size. Okay, that's a bit too big. Okay, so can you see that now? It says page 2.
Yes, perfect.
Great. So I'm going to start. I will say something about the page 1. Remember, there's 2 pages of data entry. One is about your general social media activity or postings, and the second one is specifically about your teaching. So in the second page, I'll start with the second page because I think that's the one that's going to be most useful for you. So I'll read through this and then explain what we're looking for. So supplementary questions from Mosaik researchers only. The following supplementary questions are for Mosaik researchers only. Please select one activity from an online lesson that you taught today, or one example of a post or content that was shared in your online class. So the idea is to try to focus on one specific aspect or activity of your lesson, and then answer the questions about that one. So for example, I think, Fatima, what you were saying about the video, let's take your video about friendship and friends, and you would answer the questions based on that activity. So it says if you select a lesson activity in question 18 below, answer the questions about the lesson activity. If you select a WhatsApp post in question 18 below, skip to the next page. Any questions about that part of the instructions?
So I have one question. What do you mean in report? And even like when you have like add file, I'd be a bit confused because like what should I upload? Like, is it screenshots, like a document describing everything, or what?
Yeah, if you could upload a screenshot, I think that's the simplest way of me seeing the activity. So if it's a screenshot like of the questions, Fatima, that you used, you know, you talked about you have a list of 10 questions. So if you could screenshot those 10 questions and upload them so I can see the questions. You also would need to upload the YouTube link. So you'd need to find a way of sharing the link to the YouTube video. And then if you can, you know, the WhatsApp conversations that you had would also be a useful screenshot. So really, it's whatever's the easiest way of you sharing that information with me so I can see how the activity worked. You know, you could include, if you'd made a lesson plan, you could include the lesson plan, like Aisha's lesson plan, where she showed us the questions for the hobbies. You said you had the 5 questions, and they had to do the game in pairs. So if you've got that, if you've already written that out as a lesson plan, that's a really useful explanation for me to be able to see what the activity was. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
So
Can't you?
it's, yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so lesson activity, complete 19 to 23. So you are to answer this section only if you choose a lesson activity from the options above. If you choose a WhatsApp post, skip the questions and click next. So imagine you're talking about a lesson activity here. So let's use Fatima's example of the friendship. Do you really need to have friends? So please attach one activity from an online lesson that you taught today. So you could attach the 10 questions. You could include the YouTube clip, the link to the YouTube clip. Yeah, so that's what you would upload here. What is the aim of the activity? So Fatima, could you just tell us what was the aim of your do you really need to have friends activity?
Okay, so it was more to practice listening, because it was like something we listened to, and then forming questions at some point, because at some point they have to ask each other a question about like friendship in general. But I would say listening, to improve listening, and also to practice forming questions.
Fantastic. So this is where we want a bit more detail. So what you've just said there would be perfect. I think when we fill in online forms, we tend to be quite brief. We tend to be quite, okay, so what is the aim of activity? The aim of the activity is listening. And I totally understand that that's normally how we would complete an online form. But what Fatima just said there obviously takes it much further. So you've got one aim, which is listening. And you could, I think you even said listening because. So you could say listening because you want the students to get to know each other. It's the first lesson and it's kind of an introductory lesson or an icebreaker, but listening because, and that's one aim. And then you also mentioned forming questions. So already you've got like a skills aim, practice the skill of listening, and you've also got a language aim. The language aim is forming questions. So that's another important detail that you can include. So I guess really what I'm saying is if you just reflect a little bit on what are the secondary aims. You know, there might be this main aim of getting them to talk to each other, but are there other aims? Are there you know, language aims? Are there more kind of personal aims or interpersonal aims, like, you know, that these people don't know each other, so they need to learn about each other's lives? So that could also be an activity. Okay, so moving on to the next question, 21. How did you adapt this activity to deliver it in an online lesson? Now, again, this sounds like a quick answer, but if you could talk me through the steps, what was really interesting about everything was as an English language teacher, I'm familiar with pretty much all of the kinds of activities that you used, but I've never used them online like you're using them. So I just think that in this question, in question 21, if you could mention the steps that you've gone through to take something like, you know, Ahmed called it an icebreaker. Well, I know how icebreakers work in a classroom. What would be really useful would be for me to know, how did you adapt that to an online environment, an online setting? So I don't know, Ahmed, do you want to just tell us 2 or 3 things about how did you do that? How did you turn an offline activity into an online activity?
Yes, you know, like I agree with you. As you said, it is better to in person. So, but actually, as you know, no way. I had to do it online. So, and in order to like just like getting to know each other, even the names were like different from the different cultures' names. So it's difficult to pronounce. But when you hear twice, 3 times, he's more likely to pronounce it, able to pronounce in one class just. And so, like when we answering the question or asking the question, we need to like mention the name with that question. So this question is going to you, like let's say Anu, could you go with this question? So it means like the aim was like trying to just to what is called like generate the information, the basics about themselves, and
Okay.
to
Okay, so so that's really different, isn't it? If you are sitting in a room with somebody and they pronounce the name differently, that's a lot easier to handle if you can use body language and a big smile, to say, okay, we don't pronounce it like that, or can you try and pronounce it this way, like Ahmed with a British English accent, I would say Ahmed, but then when you pronounce it, you say Ahmed. So how do you deal with that online? You're obviously having to be sensitive to these differences. So you're taking, you know, what you did offline and putting it online. So in this question 21, if you could just find a way of thinking, what did I do to manage that situation online that was obviously quite different to managing that classroom activity offline? I don't know, Ahmed, can you think of an example of, you're sitting there looking at your screen and you've got your, how many was it, 9 or 10 students? Can you remember anything that you did to help them listen carefully to each other?
yes. So the beginning of class, I asked them to like turn on the video camera. I mean, so in order to like to get to know each other, especially the face with a name, and actually their name they were written in their camera. But when we see the faces, also it helps us to know more and to the quick just to get to know each other. so by the camera.
So that's perfect. That's absolutely
Also like body
fine.
language, but sorry, body language also is like helped us to get to know more when they expressing like their facial expression, talking. So we
Great. So if you just if in that question for 21, which is what is the question in 21? Let me just have a look. How did you adapt this activity to deliver it in an online lesson? Exactly what Ahmed just said. So he asked them to turn on the video. He wanted them to get to know each other's faces. He wanted them to look at each other when they were pronouncing their names, because we can't rely so much on our listening skills in an online class. We want to be able to maybe see the person pronounce their name. So everything that you just described there is a nice example of an answer to question 21. And it will take, obviously this is something that you are all doing quite naturally now. You've spent months online, well, perhaps years online, but certainly since COVID, you've been spending a lot more time online. And so we're all doing these things really without thinking about it. But what that question tries to do is try to get you to think about some of the steps. I know that wasn't very clear from the question itself. So what I am going to try to do is, now that I've got a little bit more time, hopefully from next week, is add some prompts under these questions so that you can see, okay, what does Tony mean here exactly? And so I'll add some prompts in there. But basically, what Ahmed just described is the kind of answer that we're looking for there. Any questions about that one?
no, it's great. So not like before. Now we are understanding more and more. So we'll
Okay.
be able to
I do
answer this
apologize.
question.
There was so much happening in summer that we just didn't have the time to get this right from the beginning. So this is great. We've got the first phase of data, which we're going to use. But for the next phase, we can have more detail. So for the next question, what difficulties did your learners face? Okay, we've heard a little bit from, we went back to Fatima, we went back to Ahmed. Let's go back to Aisha. Aisha, you were telling us about the radio game and the conversation, the pairs, talking in public. Could you just think about maybe one or two challenges that the learners faced in those first one or two lessons?
Well, I don't, like no any big challenge, but it's just they're still new to each other. Sometimes when I put a girl and a guy together, because I do the rooming, the breaking of rooms automatically, then they may feel shy. Then a student left, and there's one student like a girl. They didn't. I put in a room one girl and one guy. So they didn't talk. I don't know. He may feel shy. She may felt shy. I don't know. So they couldn't do this.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm.
Okay, that's a.
Maybe I'll put the girls
that's a really
together
good
and then.
What did you do? How
Yeah.
did you respond?
I went to the room and I talked to the girl, and then we just said he may had some problems because Mohammed, the student who is the one who left the room, so I thought he had some connection problems. So I had to do this with the student, and other challenge, maybe they're not having a lot of vocabularies, so they're not just they speak a bit Arabic, and I don't mind because they're still beginners, but I encourage them to maybe translate the word, speak in Arabic and then translate it, for example. don't give up. You try it. You don't have to use such big complicated words. Maybe that's it.
Okay.
Because
So
if we've done just two classes,
those are two
maybe
really
there
good
will be more
examples.
challenges.
Those are great examples. What I should stress is just so that again that you are clear, and I asked Aisha then for what did you do, and I shouldn't have asked that question. I shouldn't have asked that question. In this question number 22, it's about what challenges the students face. You don't need to feel like you have to then solve that challenge. It would be interesting, like Aisha described what she did, but if you could just focus on what the challenge was. Again, I think, do you record your classes? Do you record the lessons?
No, I don't.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you what is the ideal situation, and then you can try to work with that. The ideal situation is to be able to answer some of these questions. You are going to have to make a few notes during your lesson. Now, I know that's quite a lot to ask because you're already doing a lot. But what I would ask you to do is, if you can, either during the lesson or immediately after the lesson, write down, for example, challenge number 1 or problem number 1, girl and guy feel shy, Mohammed left the room, I had to talk to the girl. And that's it. You just make a note of that so that when you come to do the entry later.
Are we going to put this in, for example, in question number?
This is question number 22. What difficulties?
Okay, then we're using this for what?
What difficulties did your learners face?
22. The difficulties.
Yeah. What difficulties did your learners face?
Okay, so I'll write this exactly what happened, or just points like.
Well,
okay,
I mean, it's what you have the time to do. I would like as much detail as you can to explain what the difficulty was. I am not teaching your learners, so I don't know that now that you're teaching online, you have this issue of girls and guys feeling a bit shy when you put them into a pair, or the Arabic, the students using a lot of Arabic when they are supposed to be using English. Though we could discuss about whether that's a problem later, but what I need to know is, in this question, like what was the problem, and how did that problem occur in your lesson? So I just need 2 or 3 details, or as many details as you can remember. And I think what we're talking about here is how are you going to remember these things? Are you going to be able to just make a note when you're teaching problem with Mohammed and the girl? Or are you going to say, look, that's I've got too much happening during my class to be doing that. I'm just going to spend 20 minutes after my lesson finishes to try to make some notes that will mean that I can answer the questions online. I mean, we know this is one of the reasons, to be completely honest with you, this is one of the reasons that you're paid for your time, because it will take you some time to make a note of these issues so that you have something to put on onto the website. So that's why we're paying, because we know you're really busy and we know some of these things will take a bit of time. So if I was Aisha writing the answer to question 22, I would write the thing about the girl and the guy, and they went to the room and Mohammed left the room. Because again, this is an important aspect of the challenges that people are facing when they teach language online. You need to find opportunities for the students to interact together, but there are sometimes barriers to those interactions, whether it's around gender, whether it's around shy students, whatever the issue is. I need to know what those issues are. So you have one issue about the students not feeling shy together, and you've got this other issue about the vocabulary not having enough English, and you just need to describe that. So don't just stop at vocabulary, but say what words did the students not have in English? What Arabic word did they use because they couldn't find that word in English? That is so much more useful than saying they don't have a lot of vocabulary in English. We sort of know that already. What I need is are your examples. In Ahmed's lesson, in Aisha's lesson, in Fatima's lesson, what words did they not have in English? What word did they use in Arabic? And that's, even if you only write one sentence about the little bit of English that they used and the little bit of Arabic that they used, that is a really beautiful example of what's happening in the interaction. Okay, I better move on. So the next question is about what worked well. Okay, let's go back to Fatima. Could you tell us one thing that worked well in your lesson about friends?
So I think that it's like, even if it was like our first lesson, the students were like invest in the subject, and they were asking and answering the questions, and or even asking follow-up questions.
Okay.
So I would say, and like the conversation kind of role. So that's always a good thing in an English class.
Just say that last bit again.
Oh, like the conversation, like continue, or like role, I said. I'm not sure if this is the right word.
Yeah, it was on a roll. Yeah, conversation was on a roll.
No. So it's just the conversation continued, like started and like was continuing until like I was like went to the room and said, oh, you have like 2 minutes. They were talking all the time. So they were now like a silent moment or something. So this is very good.
That is great. That is a good example. Okay, so I'm just going to ask you two questions about that. So I know, and again, all of this is a test of your memory. So this is why I encourage you to make a few notes or fill in the website entries. If you prefer just to make time straight after the lesson to upload your answers to the questions, then you don't need to make the notes. But that means that you have to make time for the internet. So the website. So Fatima, can you remember what they were talking about at the end of the lesson when they wanted to continue talking?
So I remember they were talking about, so one of the question was like, do you of online friends versus real life friends? And like they all have, like they had kind of disagreeing about this point. It's
I'm afraid the connection's gone really
Can't
bad.
hear.
Could you say that again? Sorry, Fatima. Could you just say that? Try again. Maybe not. If you can hear us, Fatima, do you want to try turning off your video and just using the audio? Ahmed, Aisha, can you still hear?
I can hear you, yeah, but I can't hear Fatima.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, I just hear you guys, not Fatima.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see if Fatima comes back. In the meantime, Ahmed, could you tell us what worked well, what went well in your class?
So yeah, actually, the majority was not like able to speak in the first classes, so as usual they do. But actually, some of them their English is really good, so they were like. I asked some feedbacks about what we have studied in the beginning, the ice breaking and the self introductions. So they were like, when I asked the feedback about what we have studied so far, like they said, it's really helped us to. No, sorry. When I remember, like I said, the self introduction is not about just like for the learning or for job interview. I said like it is also will help you to make friends or to show your confidence from the first meeting to someone. By the way, they were like skating in the peer about this. Then they said it's really helpful about we didn't know. You just like said English self introduction was just for the let's say for the scholarship or job interview. But they say we didn't know that it worked in our real life, just like, and this kind of stuff is went well. So
Okay. So I wonder if the thing that you could write in the answer to this question then is about their attitude to English, their understanding of how English is useful to them in their everyday lives. Is that what they were saying?
yes, of course, not just for the learning or the work in their everyday life.
Okay. I mean, that's very general. I can see how that's a good thing, and that is something that you could say definitely is something that worked well. But what I'm looking for here is a moment in the lesson where you think, that's gone really nicely. They've really understood each other. They've really understood me, or they've really developed a new grammar point, or they're now able to use a particular vocabulary, something in the lesson. And I know it's really difficult to have this conversation with each other now after your lesson. Hopefully, now that we've had this conversation, when you're in your classes, you're going to be looking for these things much more explicitly. So now that we've talked about these things, you're going to be able to, or more aware of them when they happen. So don't worry if you can't remember a really clear example of what worked well. I don't know. Let's try one more. Aisha, can you still hear me?
Yeah. But I'm thinking of this question.
Okay.
I
All
mean,
right. Well, I'll tell you
could
what.
we
So
put like more than one thing?
don't worry.
Yeah.
Don't worry. I think what I'm going to say about this question is you are going to, now that you're more conscious, now that you're more aware of what what I mean by what worked well, let's leave this one for now. And if in your next class,
So
in
can
your
I
next
have an
lesson,
example?
Sorry,
Let's
can I add one thing like, oh,
In the next session.
well, I think I'm just trying to, because now this is a test of your memory, and I'd rather we spoke about this question after, in the future, after you've had an opportunity in the class to think about what is working well. Do you see what I mean?
Yes. So I had a class yesterday. I was thinking of example just to make sure I understand what you were looking for.
Yeah.
So for example, we were writing a story, and one thing we wanted to focus on is like tenses and how, how do we use tenses to show the sequence of time or like sequence of event. And in one point when I entered the room, they were talking, oh no, we should use like past perfect, not past present, past simple, and they were explaining why. And for me, like I felt, yes, this is what exactly I want. This is what you're looking for.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. So something quite specific, like Fatima just described it as a moment, a moment in the lesson when she entered the room, and they were already having this conversation about how to use tenses to show the sequence of time. So that the example is kind of lifted from the lesson itself, but it's a very clear example of something that was working well in that class, in the way that the students were interacting. So again, it's about, and it's really quite difficult to do, but it's about being very specific and not too general. So to use your example, Ahmed, I can see why you would say, well, it was working well because they were seeing the importance of English. That's great, but if you could think of a specific moment when something that you have asked them to do as part of their learning has gone well, that's a much clearer example of a successful part of the class. Does that make sense? So brilliant. Okay, so try that out. Again, it's not always, it's not, I mean, you know, I understand that your lessons are not full of these moments. You know, a lot of learning is going on and we can't see it. So I don't think you're gonna have so many examples of like, oh, and there was this amazing moment when they started to do this, or there was this amazing moment they started to do that. It's just more about something that you think at the level of when they were speaking, or maybe a question that they asked, or an answer that they gave, you thought, okay, great, that is an example of something that has worked. Okay, moving on to the next question. Was anything about COVID-19 mentioned during this activity? Okay, so do you want to, has anybody got any examples of where COVID came up in the class?
So in the French lessons, there was something about this, because when we were discussing the online pieces, they like in real life friends, and one of them like had this argument that, oh, when the COVID-19 broke down, we all have to connect with our friends online. That doesn't make them in a way like less of our friends.
So just say that again. I missed a little bit. Just say that again, please, Fatima.
Okay, so in the French class, when they were having an argument about friends online or friends in real life, and one of them was like had this argument that when COVID-19 broke down, we all had to connect with our friends online. So it's not a bad thing. It's like the opposite.
Okay, nice. Okay, I like that example. So all you would need to write in there is what the topic. So when COVID happened, one of the students, or some of the students, were arguing about how it had helped people become more connected online. Was it? They had to sort of communicate online. Yeah. And then what you could add to that is, how did they do that in English, or how did they do that in Arabic, or just to say a little bit about, was it an opportunity for them to use some of the English that they know or that they've been learning to talk about COVID? So if not, don't worry, you can still include it. If it all happened in Arabic, that's fine. The question's about COVID, and the question is really what I want to see here is, how are your learners talking about COVID in their lessons? So even if it's not in English, it's still an interesting thing to know that it's come up as a conversation topic, and that there are these different perspectives, there are these different opinions about COVID. So anything that you think that you could describe in detail, if you could include it in that section. Does that sound okay? Is that clear?
Well, I'm not sure I get the whole idea. So are you interested in opinions, or just the way they're speaking about COVID in English? Or do you want to see how like the COVID is related to the subject of like the class?
It's all of those things. It's all of that, really. It's I think, again, just trying to think, like, how at the moment, I don't know how people in your region are talking about COVID. I know how people sitting in my part of England are talking about COVID. What we want to do is just to get a little bit of a picture about what the people that you're working with, what are their conversations about COVID. It's very, very small. That picture is very small, but if you could just try to describe, sometimes to answer your question, Fatima, sometimes it might be about the lesson itself, and the English that they're learning, and they use that English to talk about COVID. On another day, it could be completely in Arabic, and it's just a coincidence that they're talking about COVID in your lesson. It's not important at this stage which of those it is, just to what is the COVID stuff that they're talking about. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. So we're going to move to page 1 now, the page 1 questions. Do you want to have a 5-minute break, and we'll start again in 5 minutes? Have a breather. Ahmed, you don't need fresh air because you're already sitting outside.
The view, nice view. But I do need to.
I'll show you. If I could show you how grey and miserable and depressing the sky is here, then your sunshine is making me quite jealous. It's a horrible day here. But anyway, don't worry. It's going to be like this for the whole of winter. Have 5. I'm gonna make a cup of tea. So if you have 5 minutes, and then we'll start again.
Okay.
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 Ahmed, you're still outside.
Yes, I just got the tea. So
Good move. What building are you in? Is this where you live or where you work?
where I live, actually, it's downtown. It's called the center of Amman.
And what
Mm.
what is in downtown Amman? What kind of things? What's near to your building?
Yeah, the market, the main market here, nearby my building, just a few minutes to walk. And yeah,
That's great. So it's really central. It's in the center.
yeah, it's really center, like bus stations, everything is near. So
So a lot happening. I've only visited Amman, I think just once. It was a short visit, so I don't know the city very well. But one of my colleagues from Britain,
mm,
he loves it. It's his favorite. It's his favorite city. He's always trying to get to Amman because he's in student recruitment, so he's responsible for different countries. I think he's responsible for North Africa and the Middle East kind of region. But Amman is the city that he's always talking about. So I need some point in the future. I need to try and visit.
yeah, we'd like to see you here. Like,
I'd love to come. I would love to come. With This is what we're looking forward to. And Fatima, which part of the city are you in?
So currently I'm living in like a very far away from Muhammad. It's something called Seventh Circle. So it's far away, but it's fine. I'm living here like for just a while because I'm doing a course and I'm living in the dorm actually
Okay.
of where I'm studying. But I live in Salt, which is outside Amman, like another city. Also beautiful.
What's the name of that city?
Salt.
Salt.
Yeah.
Okay. And what course are you studying?
Programming, full stack programming.
How's it going?
It's very intense. Like we have 11 hours a day of studying, 12 actually. But I like it. I didn't know I would love programming, but I absolutely love it and I'm enjoying.
Well, that's a relief. It's a relief, isn't it? When you start a course and you think, I'm going to do this thing. It's not. It's all. Is it very new to you, or did you do some before?
No, I study biomedical engineering. I mean, we have to do like a little bit of programming, like C, C++ and stuff, but no, it's not near. No, but math-wise, it's a bit like knowing math. I feel like have helped me a little bit because I
Great.
study a lot of math. Yeah.
Well, good luck with that. That sounds very, very different to what we're talking about today. Very different to all of this stuff. Okay, right, let's start again then. So to get us going, to get us started, could you just tell me what kind of social media you use? What sort of social media do you use as part of your everyday lives? Ahmed, you tell us first.
okay, like the WhatsApp is more popular nowadays. WhatsApp, Facebook, Zoom also. Like Zoom is platform just, but we do use in many different ways.
Great. Zoom, WhatsApp, Facebook. Okay. Aisha, do you use anything in addition to those three?
No,
No.
Instagram sometimes, but
Sorry,
not like a
just
thing.
Yeah. Ahmed?
yeah. You mean like in general or for just like teaching? Oh,
In general, just in general.
I do use Twitter, so
Okay, so Twitter as well.
sometimes follow up with Donald Trump and
Sometimes when?
follow up the news, Donald Trump news, like Donald Trump tweeting. So
You're a brave man listening to Donald Trump on Twitter. I don't know. I think the world, the world's depressing enough without listening to that man. But I suppose you need to know what's happening. And do you find that Twitter's quite useful for finding out news?
Yeah, sure. Because like it is the articles always written in Twitter is like not short articles. So I like that. So I can get the news like Sudan news or the world news just in quick, like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Not like Facebook. I don't have to spend like much time looking for news or pictures. So
Okay.
that is why I prefer Twitter. So.
And Fatima, what do you use?
I use mostly Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp, especially now I'm too busy, but I used also to use Instagram.
Okay, and what with it? It's Facebook, WhatsApp, and what was the other one?
The Messenger, which is the message, yeah.
Okay. So what we're going to talk about now is how you can share your social media, one of your social media communications each day for the data collection period. So page 2 is about your teaching and things that are happening in the lessons or sharing in the lessons. Page 1 is much more about your social lives, your family lives, your non-professional lives, and this is quite a different objective. This is quite a different aim. Again, I don't know, sitting here in England, what conversations you're having, not just about COVID, but really at the moment, everything that we do and everything that we communicate about is happening in a changed world, in a different set of circumstances. The way that you are able to see family or see friends or not see family or not see friends is all affected by COVID. So the idea of the page 1 data entries is to try to catch something of your day-to-day lives. So what I should emphasize is not everything that you write about has to be specifically about COVID, because in some way everything that's happening in the world is kind of influenced a little bit by COVID. So it's enough that we are living in this environment at the moment. So if you could include any kinds of communications about COVID, that would be great, just to see what the conversations are that you're having, just to see what maybe some of the restrictions are that you're experiencing. We should try to get a flavor of that, a taste of that from your page 1 entries. So thinking about Facebook or Twitter or WhatsApp or even Zoom, if you meet with friends or family on Zoom, maybe there's a way of including that as your one daily entry. I'll share my screen so that we can just think about those questions. Can you see page 1?
Yes.
Yeah, so you provide your details, you put in your ID, your name, the date of the entry that's being recorded, and the click that you agree to the consent. You know, we won't share this information with people, but we do need your consent that we can use it for data analysis. And then you answer these questions. So let's start with an example like we did before. thinking about this week, let's start with Fatima and Faith. You mentioned Facebook. Can you think of some activity that you've been involved in on Facebook this week?
Hi, I lost connection for a bit. Could you repeat that?
Yeah. So thinking about this week, you mentioned Facebook. Can you tell us about some of your activity on Facebook this week?
So when I say activity, I don't like. I don't actually post or hi. Like, let me think.
That's okay. So this is going to be the difficulty with this, because maybe not every day you are doing these things. Did you read stuff on Facebook?
Again, the connection went down. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Okay, don't worry, Fatima. Let's try with Ahmed. Ahmed, Facebook or Twitter? Any activity from this week?
Actually, like as I said, like the social media, mostly I'm not posting, but I am following the news, what is been going on in the world, in the region. So what could I say, like, to specifically mention to you, like, um, just like U.S. Elections. Also, I'm very concerned about that because, like, a lot of like the folks here are always asking me about that, what is happening there. So,
Okay. So what you could do then is, if you have read a news story on Facebook or on Twitter, then you can upload that story to page 1 and answer the questions about that story. Even if you didn't post anything yourself, you can include that, because that tells me what you are reading at the moment. And reading is also useful in this research project. Not everything has to be about writing. So if you're reading something online, then you can include that in your page 1 data entry. Let's now think of an example from, you all mentioned Messenger and WhatsApp. Aisha, can you tell us about an example of WhatsApp conversations that you've been having with it this week? Who were they with and what were they about?
Okay, let me check what's up there. Like a nickname could be a friend, for example.
Say again.
Sorry. It can be anything, like a friend, a conversation with a friend, or
Absolutely.
I lost
Anything.
connection also. Okay, that I had a conversation with my friend yesterday. We've been chatting about she coming to me, like visiting me.
yes.
Okay.
That makes sense?
That makes sense. Yeah, thank you. That makes sense. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to look at the questions for page 1 and see if we can answer those questions about your conversation on WhatsApp with your friend Aisha. So obviously for number 1, you put in the date, you put in the times, you put in how many times you've choose your chat programs, Where did you communicate online, at home or outside the home? So you can say a little bit there about where the conversation took place, the WhatsApp conversation took place. Number 5, why did you communicate online? I don't know, Aisha, could you say a little bit about why are you using WhatsApp in this example?
Yeah, why? Because it was easy, because she was at work, so she couldn't answer the phone. Then I sent her a message.
Okay,
And she
fine.
responded.
So she was at work, you were at home,
Yeah.
you use WhatsApp, and did you say something about you use it instead of talking on the phone?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Because she's
great.
at work, so she couldn't answer the phone. Then I sent her a message on WhatsApp.
Fine.
She saw it and responded immediately.
Okay, great.
It was
So
easier.
you can put that. That's enough detail. You can put that in the number 5 box about why you were using WhatsApp and about the nature of the communication between you and your friend. Number 6, with whom did you communicate? So you can you talk about, you know, I communicated with my friend. Number 7, do you use more than one chat program at the same time? So were you doing any other social media or any kind of work or any kind of study at the same time, Aisha?
No.
Okay, so
I think
for that one, you can click no. Number 8, what else were you doing while you were communicating online? So if you were shopping, or if you were doing your homework or your preparation work, or you were cooking a meal, anything to try to capture how the world doesn't stop when we start to use WhatsApp. We continue to do other activities. So can you remember what activities you were involved in, Aisha?
I was cooking actually, but how can I say that on a screen activity or?
Okay, so in question number
8.
8.
Yeah.
Okay, so I need to change that then. I'll change that so that there's an open text box.
Yeah.
Open text box.
It is what none of those. And actually the last entry, it was difficult for me to read. So I was putting something, but it's not the actual, like the real thing I was putting, for example, on a screen activity or both.
That's fine. I'll change.
If you give us,
I'll make it clearer for I'll make it more open so that it's not limited to just those 2. And then number 9, what else did you do while you were looking at the screen? Okay, so maybe this is where you could write in about you were cooking, or but I'll change those. I'll check number 8 and 9 so it's clearer. And then number 10, is there anything else you wish to record? Well, for this one, this is where, and I can change 10 to add something. You know, you could talk about, you mentioned, Aisha, that your friend, you were discussing about her visiting. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And okay, so it's fine if it's not, but is her visit, is it in any way affected by COVID?
Again, I lost connection. Is her visiting affected by COVID?
Yeah, is it, and in any way in her visit to you, is it affected by COVID in any way?
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay, so in that case, you can just put no. I mean, are you so is there any social distancing in Amman at the moment?
Yeah, we're wearing the mask and keeping distance. Yeah.
Okay, so what you need to write then in number 10, and I will change it so that it's clearer. You need to describe.
I lost connection.
Okay, can you hear me, Aisha?
Yes, no. What I need to
Right.
write is what?
So you
Yeah.
need to write how social distancing or wearing the mask will affect your visit by the friend. So how will you organize this visit, and say a little bit about the social distancing in Amman? Because remember, I'm sitting in Reading. I don't
Can't
know.
hear you well.
Yeah, I don't know what the restrictions are in your life. Does that make sense?
Please, could you repeat? Because I couldn't hear well.
Okay, so I don't know what the restrictions are in Amman, so you need to describe them in number 10. Can you hear
Okay.
that? Yeah, so just say a
Yeah,
little bit
yeah.
more in number 10. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to change the last 3 questions for page 1 so that it's clearer what it is that we're looking for, and you can add more detail there. Is that okay? I've started to
Yeah.
shout like I know that's not going to make the connection any better, Aisha. Sorry. Can you hear me?
No, yes, now I can hear. Now I
Oh,
can
you can
hear.
hear me. Great. Okay, sorry. I was raising my voice hoping that you could hear me. I'm sure that I don't think you can hear me in Amman from Reading. So I was just saying I will change questions 8, 9, and 10 so it's clearer what we're looking for
Yeah.
there. Is that okay?
Yeah, please.
Brilliant. Okay. Okay. So we may have lost Fatima. I don't know. Her connection was.
No, I'm actually here, but I
Oh,
joined.
you're there.
Yes.
Okay. I think what we'll do now, because we've come to the end of page 1, I'm going to change the questions at the end of page 1
Can I
so
ask
that
a
it's
question?
clearer. Do you have any questions for me now? Any questions about any of the website?
So yes, I do. When I joined, you were talking about like the first question. So you mentioned something, if you read an article or something, maybe talk about it. So like what exactly do you want? What information you want us to write? Maybe you said this, but it was when I was fixing my connection.
That's okay. Yeah. What I was trying to describe was a way of you telling me about your communications at the moment. And I know it's only what we call a snapshot. It's only a small picture of the kinds of things that you're talking about. But what I need to have some description from you about is what communications are you involved in? Who are you talking to? How are you talking to them given the current social distancing? So
Yeah.
question page 1 is trying to get you to describe some of your online communications. So if you're discussing a paper, if you're discussing a Facebook post, if you're sharing a Facebook post, if you're reading a Facebook post, what I would like to know is what is it that you're reading and what technology are you using?
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Uh, yes, so there is a question about were you using like more than one app? So do you mean like at the like when we're describing a conversation or something, do you mean the same person at the same time or in general that day?
That day. So just in that specific moment of that communication.
Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Aisha, Ahmed, any
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah, but how many entries we have this time, and when we gonna start?
So I just need to speak to Mickey and Ben about when we're starting the new phase of the data collection, but it'll be very soon.
Okay.
So
How many?
I'm gonna finish the writing up some tips and some recommendations for how to, like a little manual for how to fill in how to fill in some of the questions. Now that I've got some of your examples, I can start to fill in that, and then we'll start the phase 2 data collection soon.
Okay.
Okay.
How many interests are going to have? Like, how many interests are going to do?
Say again.
How many times or interests are going to make?
So the
Like
aim
this.
is to have between 1 to 2 weeks of data collection in each phase. So it will be a little bit less than last time, but to a way of trying to sort of make it easy for you to describe to us what is happening over a period of 7 to 14 days so that we can pick up the pattern. What we want is that we can see how your communications evolve across a number of days. Does that make sense?
I couldn't hear what all, but yeah, I got your idea.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we try
Okay.
to look at a number or a sequence of communications across 1 to 2 weeks so that we can see a pattern in the kinds of communications that you're involved in.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so I will send a short manual that describes some of the things that we've talked about today.
Okay.
Okay,
So
Ahmed, any
going.
questions? Yeah, any more
Sorry.
questions?
So
No,
are we
no,
going
go
to be
ahead,
able to,
Aisha. Yeah.
are we going to be able to view this recording? Like, can you send us, or could you put it in the internet like last time or
I
something?
will do. Yeah, I'll share the recording on the internet. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. If you forgot something, we could be able to see.
Yeah, I just want to know, like, for the timing, the time start and time to finish, because it was like a little bit confused. If you don't mind to go up to see, there's like, I just want to ask you a specific point there about timing. Yeah. Yeah, actually, this like number 1, number 2, and so because the last time I was confused, like it mean like the sense we like wake up in the morning till the night, or the sense we in the middle of day when we starting like communicating online. So what you specific guys looking for these points?
Yeah, good question. So we're looking at really an indication or an idea of how long the communication lasted. So if you can say when you started to talk about this and when you finished, I think this one's been quite difficult for people. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the question so that it's rather than have it as when did it start and when did it finish. I think I might create one question which you can type in how long it lasted, not so much what was the time it started and what was the time it finished, but more how long did this communication last. Would that be easier?
Yeah, I think.
I think it's okay. We can say, like, do you mean what time it started? Like, I can say 5:30 and then ends 5:40. It takes 10 minutes, or we can both works. I think this is
Well,
more specific, Max. If I don't remember how long,
this
then I
is it.
can.
And I mean, Ahmed, is that clearer now? Do I need to change the question, or is that clearer?
like I still have some kind of confusion. So, but it's okay. Like, what time did this online communication start? So, in the daytime, I have like a lot of online communication. Let's say with the family, friends, teaching, or the social media. So there is difference. So there's the you looking for the specific time in the morning when we started communicating online, or
All of the questions for page 1 are about a specific communication. They're not generally.
okay, okay,
So the idea is to try to find out about one activity on Facebook or one activity on WhatsApp where where you were communicating with the same person or the same people. What time did that communication start and what time did it finish? Or what time did you start reading the Facebook post and what time did you finish reading the Facebook post? Or what time did you start to share the tweet? So make it specific about one activity.
okay. I got it. So thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, if
Yeah.
if you're reading something on Facebook or for example Instagram, does that mean online communication also? I thought it should be with someone, with a person.
Well, the thing is, people are struggling to they're saying, oh, but we don't communicate with people every day. So I'm going to, if you can include reading things online, that's fine. It's not exactly, it doesn't exactly fit with the questions, but if you really find it difficult to describe one communication every day, then instead of a communication, you can include something that you were reading online.
Okay, so there's like around the same point. Yeah, for example, I had almost the same conversation with my mother. Um, and should I always like include this, or I try to choose like other because I don't like use it social media that much. So this is why it was a bit difficult for me. Like the first page always was the most difficult.
Okay.
So I guess my question is, like sometimes I really don't have any communication and I don't go online. So what should I do?
Okay, good question. That's a good question. I mean, like me, I don't use social media a lot either, Fatima. So I understand exactly what you mean. Um, it's okay if you don't have anything that day. I mean, it would be good if you could include maybe something that you'd read that day. I mean, I don't want to complicate it, but you could include things that aren't online, just so that we can see what reading and writing you're involved in. The idea is to try to get a sense or try to get a picture of your reading and writing activity across this 1 or 2 week period. So if you're not doing anything online that day, you could include a little bit about what you're studying. You could include a little bit about your reading the news. I know that's not what the questions are really designed for, but really what's important to us is that we understand what communications you're involved in. And communication is obviously very broad. So don't struggle to find one social media posting, but include something else that you did. Is that okay?
Yes, I think that's okay. I read a lot of articles, so maybe I can do this. So if I want to write about an article I read, should I include the link of it or something, or
Yeah,
talk
that would be
about it?
really good. Include the link. Yeah.
Mm. And yes, thank you.
Excellent. Okay, great. So that's been so useful for me. I'm going to change some of the website questions next week when I get chance. And I'm going to finish up this little manual so that you have some top tips and some guidance. And I'm going to use some of the examples that we talked about today. If you have any questions, you know, you can always drop me an email. If you've got questions about anything related to the website or the project or the data entry, you can just send me an email. Any final questions? Anything that comes to mind? Okay, great. Well, if anything comes to mind after, please do stay in touch. Let me know what's going on. Let me know how you're, you know, any problems that you're having, and hopefully we'll talk again soon after the next phase. I'll ask Mickey to let you know when the next phase is starting and to give you that information as soon as possible.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you again for all your time and for all your effort, and have a good weekend, and I will talk to you all fairly soon.
Thank you, Tony.
Thanks,
Thank you for
everyone.
your time.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Take care.
Tony.
Bye. Bye-bye.
It is very helpful. Yeah, bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.